What? All right. Sorry, my mom made me do that. All right. First off, thank you, BrickCon Foundation, for inviting me, and thank you all for listening to me. I want to talk to you about our LEGO family. But who am I? I'm Simon, or Simon Liu. I like frogs and Ferrero Rochers. You might know me or follow me on Instagram or Flickr. Simox, please like and subscribe. I'm going to try to save everyone a bit of time and kind of skip a bit through some of the boring stuff. If you want to know about my history, my background, etc., there is an excellent Brick Nerd article that you can read all about this. I'll save you even more time. This is the one thing that everyone remembers from this article. This picture. I thought about actually dyeing my hair for this, but people really like this picture. So if you ask what have I done in the community and what have I built, there's actually another article on Brick Nerd that goes through a bit of my history. But one of the key things is I created September. One of these things. Your size may vary. Why am I here? Well, you already heard, I've been a part of the online community for a while, wrote for some blogs, wrote some for magazines. I also run a bunch of contests, theme things, and I've also gone to a couple of conventions and done a couple of collabs. I actually counted. This BrickCon is my 40th, 40 convention. Which means, in Abner years, I'm 2. So I'm pretty good at greebles. I can build chips and things, and I clearly bring some Calvin and Hobbes stuff. But why am I here? Well, or why was I asked to be here and talk? Because really, as you can see, I'm a community person. Building is secondary. I'm a community person. And really, the community is like the foundation of this hobby. You guys, here. So let's talk about the foundations. No, not this one, though. That is an objectively awesome base plate. But really, the bedrock of the community is the people. It's a family that we create. But I feel like we can't take our community for granted. Because there's other communities. What other communities or things, hobbies do you guys do? Nachos? I'm like, did we just create Nacho Lug? Chad, where are you? Chad, we gotta get on that. Okay, so I'm actually part of other communities. I have other hobbies. I'm an avid video game player. But for that kind of community, it's usually with strangers. And you don't really know how soul-crushing it is to play video games and have a 12-year-old kill you and tell you to get good over voice. So it's a kind of a mean community. Similarly, I'm Canadian, so I am legally obliged to play hockey. This is me. I'm the goalie. And for hockey, it's kind of like frat brothers. It's kind. One more time. All right. So, I see it. I see it. Can I jump it? Nope. So the hockey community is kind of rough, as you can see. But here's what's special. The LEGO community. No, we're not doing it. The LEGO community. You can download the slides later. You can watch all you want. The LEGO community is kind and supportive. We're actually like a family. And it really doesn't matter which theme we are. It could be castle. It could be space. It could be pirate. And it doesn't matter which convention you go to. It doesn't even matter which part of online community. We're all part of this big, what I call the Lego forest. And what do I mean by the Lego forest? Well, forest is made out of trees. And for me, I think of it as like a family tree. We're a big Lego family tree. A lot of us have people that have influenced us, or people that like we've worshipped as like the superstars. Basically, what I call them almost like my Lego parents, Lego father, Lego mother. And of course, sometimes we inadvertently influence those under us and teach them. So you can see that we're creating this sort of tree, and everyone has one of these stories. Last year, Robin Sather, who won a prize, that's why I know where he's sitting, his keynote last year was all about the community's journey. And tonight, I want to kind of talk quickly about an individual journey, my own, and see what we can learn from that. This was my first convention in 2011 in Toronto. You might recognize, I didn't realize I could do it. Leigh Ward, he was the space coordinator here for many years. Space. And if you're doing the math right and kind of asking, why have I not aged? Yes, I'm a vampire. But the person I want to talk about in the middle is Ian Green. This is Ian. This is Ian. Doing his best, yes, my spaceship swooshes. But he was the first AFOL I met in real life. It was at a RTL Toronto meeting. And before I could sit down, I had to answer a question. What's a capacitor? Surprisingly, there's a couple of engineers in the hobby, so like, yeah, I could answer it. And then when I sat down, I brought up my spaceship, and he got very excited. And he was like, oh, dude, you got to go to this Flickr place. You got to go follow this group. You got to follow this guy. You got to do that. And he really basically got me into the online community and told me where to go. Like, he mentored me and showed me and got me like a kickstart on everything. And he was also the first person I also collaborated with, and we built a cool space thing. So Ian here, he's on my so-called family tree and taught me and influenced me into mentorship, i.e., he got me where I was and got me that kickstart into my so-called career. My next Lego parents, Nanan and Tyler. This is BrickCon 2010. And statistically speaking, I'm assuming that's a Hafner. Which one is it? Joe. All right, I guessed wrong. So Nanan, you might know him from years of writing for the Brothers Brick, also Iron Builder, but usually for Creations for Charity, which is donates tens of thousands of Lego a year to kids. You might also know Tyler. He was on the show. I kind of regret turning him down for such show, but it is what it is. But you might also know him from possibly the most blog builder of all time. But what I know him for is how to pack up after a convention. This was him in 2010. And I kind of took this to heart, and we created a whole game based around being Tyler. And it was called Battleship, where we destroyed 6 space fleets in a spectacular fashion. Much easier to pack. So in 2012, I actually met them. It was like the first time I had met like famous Lego people. And what really struck me was how open and welcoming and engaging they were. And not only did they talk to me, but they actually showed a genuine interest in what I brought, which was like, whoa, really? Like, cool, people want to know what I did. They also invited me to my first draft. They were basically saying, hey, $20, we can go to the coordinator suite, it's gonna take an hour, and you got some cool Lego. And I'm like, wait. So for $20 US, I could hang out like 2 of my heroes for an hour in their secret bat cave, and I get to keep the Lego? Heck yeah, I'm doing this. And it's still one of my core memories of the day. I remember being in that room. I remember the oddly specific Call Me Maybe song that played on Nanan's playlist. And Chris Malloy, are you in the room? Well, he was also there. And I still remember and still hold to him to this day what he took back from that particular draft. Still missing from my fraud collection. But really, Nanan and Tyler, they were inclusive. They included me, a young, new Lego fan, into their budding hearts. So that's what they kind of showed me. Next up, Adrian Drake. He was last year in BrickCon in 2010 and built the Spock crazy spaceship. This is him doing his best Mega Man impression. He's known for building really big things. And really, he taught me that, hey, anything goes. There's nothing, no such thing as too big, no such thing as too stupid, too impossible, or no challenge unsolvable. And when I say anything, I mean anything. Like that time I said, hey, can you build me a life-size Bender suit? Wait, no, it's just life-size. I could not wear it. But in a fun Tyler twist, while he wasn't looking, we upgraded him to President Nixon. But I will give him partial credit. The helmet was wearable, and it did get me slightly closer to becoming a big, shiny robot. I have to take a slight detour and go back to 2012, which was my first BrickCon. I was told this was the space convention. This is the sci-fi convention. Like me, I'm a sci-fi. So if you want to see them, go here. Like Nan and Tyler, Adrian, they had all come to Seattle before, so I had to come. This was also the first time I flew to a convention. This was my packing job. Yeah, you know what's coming. But I got it back together. Few extra pieces left over. But what was interesting is I actually won an award for this. This is Lei again. I could have actually devoted an entire section on him, on how I learned how to become a coordinator at a convention. Though the one thing I didn't learn from him was stupid beard tricks, because sadly, vampire, no beard. So this was my first award I ever got. But if you pay close attention, it's for large spaceship. That's not really a spaceship. It's vignette inside a spaceship. This is important because the year afterwards, I created September. For those that don't know, that's happening right now. Build 100 stud spaceship in the course of a month. Pretty common today, unheard of 10 plus years ago. But what most people don't know is that it was actually going to be Shipro in April. But it's because of BrickCon, you guys, all of you, that I'm like, no, we're going to move that to the month before, back in the day, before BrickCon. Because I wanted to see more spaceships. And now, in 2013, that first year, we counted. There were 10 spaceships that was built in September, including one by someone that you might not expect built spaceships. Josh. First spaceship. So how does this deal with Adrian? Well, this was the Flickr group. That's back in the day. That's how we talked. There's a link here to Adrian's website, because Adrian actually wrote a Bible on how to build big. So sure, he builds big. That's cool. But what sets him apart was the fact that he actually shared this information with everyone. He shared how you build big. How do you do these techniques? How do you actually insert an arm like Bender and not fall? So Adrian's up here in terms of my parents of learning for his sharing. Now my last person is Carter Baldwin. You may or may not know him. He has been here before, but you probably know him more from the Lego sets he now designs. The Gauntlet was his first big set. So if you like the drum lacquered gold, you're welcome. You can kind of argue we're probably more brothers, but he was pretty well established in the community by the time I joined in, and he took me under his wing. I could have equally said Keith Goldman. Carter and I both take pages out of Keith Goldman's collab playbook. So he's kind of like our granddaddy, I guess. But Carter was the mastermind of this, a wonderfully large cyber city that I got to build a tiny little part of. But the year afterwards, I got to come in and see how he does a collab from the ground up. From here's the initial sketch of, okay, let's try to do this, to here is the planning of who builds what section and how it all goes together. And then, of course, the final assembly, when we put it all together, this is what it all looks like. And I should point that there's many other collaborations I've been part of around this time, but what set Carter apart wasn't just the fact that he did the collab. It was the fact that he created a group dynamic and basically created a family around all this. So it's important to not just build, but build up each other as a group. And then last year, when I did a Cyber City, I copied him and did the same thing, like father, like son. I started out with an initial sketch, which was digitized by German Simon. And then we had a very, very simple spreadsheet that I don't know why anyone was confused on who's going to build which section. And we put this all together, and it's nice and tall. And then, of course, some other people build another section. But that's beside the point. Carter, he was my family guy. He taught me to not just be cool, include people, but create a family with them, which is an important part to me. And at this point, I could keep going and talk about tons of my other LEGO heroes or parents. Come find me afterwards. I'm sure after hours, I'll be happy to talk to them about them over drinks on how they've influenced me. But I feel like I want to pick on some kids. So, this is Mel. She was last here in 2017. You might know her for bicycles, but I know her for kitties. Because she, even now, I just love it. And she is from my hometown of Toronto, Canada. And she joined our lug several months after we created it. But it wasn't until several years afterwards we kind of got talking. And she kind of mentioned how she really appreciated how I made sure she was welcome when she first joined. And I'm scratching my head, what are you talking about? I'm not sure I did anything special. I didn't do any differently. I treated you how I treat everyone, how Ian treated me. And she's like, exactly. I'm like, oh. And that welcomingness and just inclusion was what she kind of took away. And then from there, she was that welcoming beacon that welcomed tons of people, both in our local community and our larger community. You might remember this. I believe this was here a couple of years ago. And Stuart, I'm guessing you remember this particular one. But this build almost didn't happen. Because she was downsizing her Lego and was like, hey, who wants these Hell-Droid wheels? And I'm like, gimme. Because it's an awesome part. But she didn't get it. And she was like, why are you so into these wheels? I'm like, how could I not? But I could see her hesitate. I was like, you know what? Keep it. But on one condition. You have to do something cool about it. You're welcome. So Mel, she's kind of taking a bit of a break from the community. But I would lock her down as she is extremely welcoming. And that welcomeness extends to the people she has welcomed, and that perpetuates down the line. The next person, Chris Roberts. This was him in 2013. If you notice, the ship behind, now that I have a laser pointer, that was my ship from my first September. Flew it all the way over here. And I was told this story years later, where him and his father had come, walked around, and then they were eating lunch at the Armory. Remember the Armory? Good poutine. And he was like, I saw Nick Trotta and I saw Simon Lewitt in the crowd. And his dad's like, but you didn't talk to them. He was like, I'm embarrassed. So his dad's like, nope, we're going back. And he found me standing behind the barrier for my ship. And we got to talking, blah, blah, blah. And eventually we took a picture. And you'll notice that he's actually behind the barrier. Because if we're taking a picture, I want him to feel like a builder. So I'd come on in, and we'll take the picture. And the next year later, he came back as an attendee, as a builder. That was the Gark year, where we had all these micro starships. We had him set this up because, honestly, it's really tedious to set up this many things. He's got the young kid energy. So he went to school and kind of dimmed out a bit, and he came back last year. This was him. Now, note, he is behind the barrier. Because that's one of his core key memories, was the time Simon Liu talked to me as a T-file of nobody, and he spent the time to engage and talk to me. And that's what he did. That's how important it was, because he wanted his next generation of people to see and be able to talk to someone and be part of this so-called community. And I asked Chris, how did I influence you? And like most kids, it took about 3 days to answer my text. But this is what he said. But the key is, focus on the people. Sure, Lego's important, but really the key is the people. Without the people, the Lego's nothing. That's part of the foundation of this community. So for Chris, engagement. Engage the people. My next set of children. This is Dan Church, Casey McCoy, and Nick Jensen. Nick Jensen you might know from years of writing for Brothers Brick, or if you've ever seen a video game gun made of Lego, 95% chance it's him. I call them Smash Bros because they did a Smash Bros thing here. Even though I know Dan and Nick much better, we played video games together as well as we did many collabs, I want to talk about the guy in the middle, Casey McCoy. Because he was a stop motion and mosaic builder. Not exactly my forte. So like we knew each other, but like we weren't really that close. Until around 2017, where he wanted to broaden his horizons. He wanted to step out and do more things. He wanted to be a bigger builder on, I guess, the literal stage of the Lego community. So we created the Account-to-Build-a-Buddy system. We actually got these bricks for each other. It's actually adorable. And what it is was like we checked up on each other. It was like, hey, how's your build going? Give feedback on where things are going, and just making sure that what we said we wanted to do, we're going to get there. This was us in 2019 in Toronto after the unsanctioned event. Some of you will learn what that is later. This is where I got to know, after a couple of drinks, his childhood dream was to become a Brick World master. And he had seen me do this when he was much younger. So he wanted to know, how do you do this? And you might be asking her, what is that? Okay, well, so it's a thing. This is the technical definition. But the key is it's a lifetime achievement award that's for not just building, but influencing and building up the community. Starting to see some family resemblance? So, and I told him that, like, how to do this. And really, it's the responsibility of you to not just be a great builder. That's important, but not the most important. You have to engage and like work with people and build up the community. That is kind of key. And he did that in 23. He not just great builds, but he also runs the stop motion film festival. He runs workshops. He runs presentations. He gives back to that community. And that's kind of what's important here. And I asked him, how do I influence him? And he responded. And the key is to be a community leader. There is a weight of responsibility to encourage and inspire. Again, if you want to be a community leader, you have to lead the community. It's kind of important. And for whatever reason, he also decided to answer my question in the form of a T-shirt. So Casey is up here for responsibility. Responsibility of you have a responsibility to be awesome to the community and everyone around you. And the other two, well, they actually came back and did a collab again, Smash Bros. Collab this year, and they built several stages and all 90 characters in the game. And specifically Nick, he won in 2017. And Dan, he won this year. And this is me, big like proud dad moment of basically my kids stepping into my literal shoes, and I couldn't be happy for them. Last but not least, we have Stefan Formatano. I've actually known him the least out of everyone here, less than like 3 years. But, and similar to Carter, maybe more like a brother, but he had big dreams, just like Casey. He wanted to build the biggest, craziest cyberpunk city ever. And we did it. It was 20 feet by 20 feet by 13 feet tall. It took about 80 builders to put this madness together. But because Stefan was such new to the community, he needed someone with him to help mentor him, to figure out how to get these people together. And I basically called in every single favor I can. It's not surprising that basically everyone I've mentioned that's still in the community contributed to this build. It was all kind of like a black swan event. And of course, it had to be in that Carter style. We weren't just creating a cool build. That is not enough. We want to create our own community, our own group, and of course, we got to take a family photo. So I asked Stefan how I influenced him. And basically, yeah, helped me with the organization, but emphasis on engaging with and finding value in every piece of the community. And this is where we really wanted everyone. It wasn't just this lug or that lug. Will, Bionicle guy, he contributed. Rob, are you here? Brick Stuff. Brick Stuff donated a whole bunch of video screens, which meant we needed the things to put on that. So we reached out to digital builders and hey, can you build us ads, build us animation so we could play it on our giant city? So Stefan is include everyone. You know what, let's do one more. Micah Biederman. He has started actually getting me Father's Day cards every year. Some are funny, some are kind of actually pretty heartwarming, though this one in particular is pretty great. Happy Father's Day, son Nanan. That is that Nanan. And while it's funny to think about our heroes being fathers, it's actually not really that linear. I influence them, they influence me. It is actually a bit of a two-way street. And I'm sure if I want to ask any of my LEGO parents how I influence them, they can give me great answers. But I only have a certain amount of time. But I can tell you that even my so-called LEGO children influence me. So when Mel built this, I had to build a space one. Chris, if I ever needed anything about electronics, how to light things up, he's my go-to guy. Casey, I don't know if you noticed, he gained about 30 pounds in like 3 years. So he taught me that if I work out, I can drink all the chocolate milk I want. And Stefan, he literally carried me on his back and basically showed me how to build unresponsibly to the point of obsceneness. Like, seriously, look how tall it is. So maybe this whole parent-child thing isn't really the right way to look at it because it is a two-way street. It's not just about what you can learn or what you can teach. It's really both. So this is where it kind of comes back to you and your tree in our so-called LEGO forest. Sure, I've had an interesting journey, but I bet so did you, every single one of you. Come find me afterward. Tell me about it. I would love to hear. These people have had a massive influence on my life, and I've had an influence on theirs. I hope you will be a good influence on others as well, and be that positive light. Avoid the drama. Avoid those flame wars, because only you can prevent forest fires. So be kind. You're taking away my joke. So be kind to your fellow builders. Be a good influence. Be a kind influencer. It matters. You all matter. Because at every convention, every interaction online or in person, you influence those around you. So be that influencer. Your tree isn't finished. You have a starting role to play. So play well. And don't forget that your LEGO family is also your foundation. So you have a responsibility of making it strong. Thank you.